The ship had torn a wound through the forest when it fell. Trees lay flat for half a mile in every direction, pointing away from the crash like fingers fleeing from fire. Smoke still rose from the broken hull, mixing with the thick fog that covered this nameless moon. Sergeant Cole moved through the wreckage with his rifle raised. Behind him, his squad followed in silence. 4 soldiers, 4 humans, the only ones for 1,000 light years in any direction. "Command, this is Recon 7, spoke into his radio. "We have found the source of the distress signal. It is a colony ship, Class 3, estimated crew of 200. The radio crackled. "Recon 7 confirmed. Investigate and report. Do not engage survivors." Did not answer. He was looking at the bodies. They were everywhere. Bodies lay scattered across the ground like broken dolls. Their scales, usually bright blue and green, had gone in death. Their wings, beautiful things that could spread wide enough to block the sun, were torn and crushed. Some bodies were still inside the ship. Others had been thrown out when it crashed. But something was wrong. Private was the first to say it. "Sergeant, these wounds are not from the crash." Kneeled beside a body, was right. The female in front of him had 3 deep cuts across her chest. The cuts were too clean, too precise. Something with claws had done this. Something with very big claws. "Stay alert," said quietly. "Something killed these people, and it was not the crash." The squad moved deeper into the wreckage. The smell of death was heavy in the air. Had been a soldier for 15 years. He had seen death many times, but this was different. This was not a battle. This was a slaughter. There were enemies of humanity. The 2 species had been at war for 11 years, had fought them. He had killed them. He had watched his friends die fighting them. But seeing them like this, murdered and left to rot, he felt no joy. Only a cold feeling in his stomach that told him something very bad had happened here. They found her near the center of the ship. She was young, very young. By standards, she was maybe 12 or 13 years old. Her scales were pale purple, cracked in several places. One of her wings was bent at a bad angle. She was curled up under a piece of metal, hiding, shaking. When she saw the humans, her large silver eyes went wide with terror. She tried to crawl away, but her body was too weak. She made a sound like a wounded animal. Private Torres raised his rifle. "Sergeant, she is." "I can see that. Protocol says we should." "I know what protocol says." Looked at the girl. She was crying now, though no tears fell from eyes. Instead, her scales flickered with pale light, a sign of fear in her species. She expected to die. She expected him to kill her. Lowered his rifle. He took off his helmet so she could see his face. Then he moved toward her slowly, like approaching a scared animal. "Do you understand me?" he asked. The girl did not answer, but she stopped trying to crawl away. "I am not going to hurt you," reached out his hand. "Can you walk?" "Sergeant," Torres said again, "she is the enemy. We cannot take her with us. She will slow us down, and when command finds out." "She is a child." Did not raise his voice. He did not need to. "She is wounded, she is alone, and we are not leaving her here to die." The girl watched this exchange with confused eyes. She did not understand all the words, but she understood that the human with the dark skin and eyes was protecting her from the others. She did not know why. Reached under the metal and carefully pulled her out. She was lighter than he expected. Her bones were hollow, built for flight. He carried her easily in his arms. "What is your name?" he asked. The girl was quiet for a long moment. Then in a small voice she said, We are going to get you out of here. Do you understand?" Did not answer. She just stared at him with those large silver eyes. In her short life she had been taught that humans were monsters, killers, destroyers, the enemy that wanted to wipe out her people. Now one was carrying her gently through the ruins of her ship, stepping over the bodies of her family and friends. Nothing made sense anymore. The squad moved out of the wreckage and into the forest. The trees here were strange. They glowed with soft blue light, and their leaves moved even when there was no wind. The fog was so thick that they could only see 20 meters in any direction. "I do not like this place," said quietly. Did not like it either. Something was wrong. He could feel it in his bones, the way a soldier learns to feel danger after years of war. They were being watched. "Keep moving," he ordered. "We need to reach the extraction point before dark." They walked for an hour, drifted in and out of sleep in his arms. Her breathing was shallow but steady. She would live if they could get her to the ship's medical bay. As they walked, kept looking at the bodies they had left behind. Something was bothering him, something he had noticed but not fully understood. Then it hit him. He stopped walking. His squad stopped with him. "Sergeant," Torres asked. "The bodies," said slowly. "They were all killed in the same way, same wounds, same claw marks, but the ship crashed at least 6 hours ago. The distress signal started immediately after." Understood first. Her face went pale. The signal was not from the... No, agreed, it was not. Something had brought down the ship. Something had killed everyone on board. And then something had turned on the distress signal and waited. The colonists were not the victims. They were the bait. And now, whatever had killed them knew that new prey had arrived. The forest suddenly felt much darker. The glowing trees no longer seemed beautiful. They seemed like eyes watching. The fog no longer seemed natural. It seemed like something was hiding in it. "Move," said, "now fast and quiet, and do not stop for anything." They ran into the fog. Behind them, somewhere in the darkness, something began to follow. They ran until their legs burned. They ran until the fog started to thin and the trees began to change. They ran until finally raised his hand and ordered them to stop. "Here," he said, pointing to a rocky hill covered with thick bushes. "We rest here 2 hours, then we move again." The squad collapsed against the rocks, breathing hard, was awake now, watching everything with her large silver eyes. Set her down gently and checked her wounds. The cuts were not deep. Her wing was badly damaged, but it would heal with time. "Why did you save me?" asked suddenly. Her voice was quiet, but her words were clear. Her translator was working now. "Looked at her because you needed saving. But I am your enemy. My people have killed many of your people." "Yes," agreed. "And my people have killed many of yours. That is what war is, but you are not a soldier. You are a child. Children do not get to choose which side they are born on." Did not understand this logic. In her culture there were only friends and enemies. There was no middle ground. This human confused her deeply. Private approached with a small container of water. She offered it too. The girl hesitated, then took it and drank. "Can you tell us what happened?" asked gently. "To your ship." Was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "We received a signal, a distress call from a ship that had crashed on this moon. My mother was the captain. She said we had to help. It is our way. When someone calls for help, we answer." She paused, her scales flickering with the pale light of painful memory. "When we arrived, there was nothing here, no crashed ship. No survivors, just this moon, but something attacked us. Something hit our engines, we fell from the sky." Her voice broke. "They came out of the fog, tall creatures, so tall, with black shells and red eyes. They killed everyone, my mother, my father, my little brother, everyone. They killed them like it was fun." The Tor said quietly. Everyone looked at him. "I have heard stories, old stories from deep space traders. They say there are creatures that hunt intelligent species for sport. They set traps across the galaxy. Fake distress signals, beacon bombs. They lure ships to planets like this and then they hunt the survivors." "Legends," said. "Space or stories to scare new recruits." "Those bodies we saw were not legends," said grimly. "Whatever killed those, it is real. It is here, and now it is hunting us." The night came fast on this moon. The blue glow of the trees faded to black. Strange sounds echoed through the forest, clicking, scraping, something moving through the darkness. Organized the watch. Torres took the first shift, then himself. Private, the fourth member of the squad, set up a small motion sensor around their camp. It was not much, but it would give them warning if something approached. At midnight, the sensor screamed. Everyone was on their feet in seconds, weapons raised. But there was nothing there, just the empty forest, just the fog. False alarm? Asked hopefully. Then they realized Torres was gone. His rifle lay on the ground where he had been standing. There was no blood, no signs of struggle. He had simply vanished, silently, impossibly fast. One moment he was there, the next he was not. "Oh God," whispered. "Oh God, oh God." Quiet hissed. Everyone back to back, eyes on every direction, moved toward the rocks. They formed a tight circle, weapons pointing outward. Was in the middle, clutching the sidearm had given her with shaking hands. She did not know how to use it, but holding it made her feel slightly less helpless. They heard it before they saw it, a clicking sound from above, looked up. It was standing on top of a tree looking down at them, 8 feet tall, maybe taller. Its body was covered in black armor that looked like bone. Its eyes burned red in the darkness. It had 4 arms, each ending in claws as long as knives. It smiled, or at least its mouth moved in a way that might have been a smile. Then it spoke. The sound was horrible, like metal scraping against stone, but understood the words perfectly. The creature was using a translator. "More prey, good. The small one was not enough sport, but humans. We have never hunted humans before. This will be interesting." It moved before could fire. One moment it was on the tree. The next it was behind them, screamed. Then he was gone, dragged into the fog, his scream fading into the distance. Fired into the darkness. His bullets hit nothing but air. The creature's voice echoed from somewhere in the forest. 2 down, 3 remain, plus the small broken one. Run, little prey. The hunt is better when you run. They ran. Through the night, through the fog, through the glowing forest that now seemed like a maze designed to trap them. They ran until sunrise, when the creatures finally stopped following and the forest went quiet. They found a small cave near a stream, carried inside and set her down. He looked at his remaining squad, was shaking. She had lost friends before, but not like this. Not taken in the night by monsters from old stories. "We cannot beat them," said. "You saw how fast that thing moved. We cannot fight that." Did not answer immediately. He was looking at the cave walls. He was looking at the stream outside. He was thinking. Crawled over to him, her broken wing dragged behind her. "Why did you not leave me?" she asked. "I slow you down. Those things want to kill all of us. You would be faster without me." Looked at her with those eyes that had seen too much death and too much war. "The bait has to be alive," he said. Felt cold. Suddenly she understood, or thought she understood. The human was using her. She was small, weak, slow. She would draw the creature's attention while the humans escaped. She was not being rescued. She was being sacrificed. Tears that were not tears began to flicker across her scales. Saw her fear. He saw her misunderstanding, but he did not correct it, not yet. She would understand soon enough. He picked up his rifle and began to clean it. "Get some rest," he told. "Tomorrow we stop running." "What do we do instead?" Smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of something dangerous that had been pretending to be prey. "We teach these things what happens when they hunt humans." For 2 days they moved through the forest, but they were not running anymore. They were preparing. Studied the land like a hunter studying his prey. He noted every hill, every valley, every narrow path between the rocks. He was looking for something specific. On the second day, he found it. A canyon, narrow walls of stone on both sides, only one way in, only one way out, the perfect killing ground. "Here," he said, "this is where we make our stand." looked at the canyon with doubt in her eyes. "Sergeant, there are only 2 of us left, plus who cannot fight. Those creatures are faster than us, stronger than us, and there are at least 6 of them. How can we possibly win?" Pointed to the walls of the canyon. "You see those cracks in the stone, perfect places to hide explosives, and those rocks at the top. One good push and they come down on anything below. The ground here is soft, easy to dig traps, and that narrow entrance. Only one creature can fit through at a time." He turned to look at. His eyes were calm, focused, the eyes of a man who had been in impossible situations before and survived. Humans did not become the dominant species on Earth because we were the strongest or the fastest. We became dominant because we learned to change our environment, to set traps, to use tools, to think ahead. He smiled that dangerous smile again. "Those creatures think they are hunting us. They have never been more wrong." For the next 12 hours, they worked without rest and planted explosives in the canyon walls. They dug pits and covered them with thin branches. They set up trip wires connected to grenades. They positioned large rocks at the top of the canyon, ready to be pushed down. They created kill zones, areas where anything standing would be hit from multiple directions. Watched all of this with growing confusion. She had expected to be used as bait, to be left somewhere obvious while the humans escaped. Instead, they were building something, preparing something, and they kept her close, kept her safe, even as they worked. "I do not understand," she said during a brief rest. "Said I was bait, but he is not using me to escape. What is he doing?" Looked at the young with tired but kind eyes. "You misunderstand, little one. When said the bait has to be alive, he did not mean what you think." "Then what did he mean?" Thought for a moment. Humans have a saying, the best way to catch a predator is to make it think it is still the hunter. Those creatures are following us. They think we are running. They think we are scared. And we are scared. But we are also leading them exactly where we want them. Was still confused. "But you are bait too, all of you." "Yes," nodded. "We are all bait. But there is a difference between bait that dies and bait that fights back. Those creatures have never met anything that fights back. Tonight they will learn why that is a mistake." As darkness fell, gathered everyone at the entrance of the canyon. He handed a small pistol. "Do you know how to use this?" he asked. Shook her head. Showed her how to hold it, how to aim, how to pull the trigger. It was simple enough that even a child could do it. "Stay behind those rocks," he told her. "If anything comes close that is not me or you shoot it. Do not stop shooting until it stops moving. Understand?" Nodded, her scales flickering with fear. "I understand." Put his hand on her shoulder. It was a gentle touch, surprisingly soft for such a hard man. "You are going to survive this," he said. "I promise." Then he and disappeared into the shadows, taking their positions. The creatures came at midnight. There were 6 of them, 6 towering monsters with black armor and red eyes. They entered the canyon slowly, confidently. They had hunted 1,000 species across 1,000 worlds. They had never lost. They never even considered the possibility. The leader clicked and scraped as it walked. "The prey is close. I can smell their fear. This will be a good hunt." Then the ground collapsed beneath it. The creature fell into the pit with a scream of surprise. Sharp stakes at the bottom pierced its armor. It was not dead, but it was wounded and trapped. The other creatures rushed forward, and that was when the explosives went off. The canyon walls erupted in fire and thunder. Rocks fell from above, crushing one creature completely. Another was caught in the blast, its armor cracked, its body broken. Appeared from behind a boulder, firing his rifle in short, precise bursts. Each bullet found its mark. The creatures were fast, but in the narrow canyon their speed meant nothing. They could not dodge. They could not flank. They could only move forward into the kill zone. Triggered another set of explosives. A creature that was climbing the wall to escape was blown apart. Its pieces rained down on its companions. The leader pulled itself out of the pit, bleeding green blood. It saw and charged at him with murder in its red eyes. Did not run. He did not even move. He waited until the creature was almost on top of him, then he stepped aside and let it run past, straight into a trip wire, straight into a grenade. The explosion threw the creature backward. It hit the ground hard and did not get up. In less than 5 minutes, 5 of the 6 creatures were dead or dying. The last one, wounded and terrified, fled into the night. Started to chase it but stopped her. "Let it go," he said. "It will come back with more." No, shook his head. "It will go back to its nest. It will tell the others what happened here. It will spread fear." He looked at who was standing behind the rocks with the pistol still in her shaking hands. She had not needed to fire. She had only needed to watch. "That is what bait is really for," said to her. "Not to die, to survive, to see, to remember, and then to tell others what we saw." Stared at the bodies of the creatures. Minutes ago they had been nightmares, unstoppable hunters, monsters from old stories. Now they were just dead things on the ground. 2 humans had done this. 2 humans with guns and explosives and clever thinking, against 6 creatures that had hunted intelligent species for thousands of years. For the first time, began to understand why her people feared humans so much. It was not because humans were evil. It was not because humans were cruel. It was because when humans decided to fight, they did not stop until they won. "Come," said, picking up his rifle. "We are not done yet." "Where are we going?" asked. Pointed toward the distant hills, where the wounded creature had fled. "To finish what we started." The blood trail was easy to follow. Green drops on stones, leading deeper into the forest toward the hills where the creature had run. Moved silently through the trees, his rifle ready. Walked beside him, covering his blind spots. They communicated with hand signals, the way soldiers learn to communicate when words are too dangerous. Followed behind them, had told her to stay at the canyon to wait for the rescue ship. She had refused. She did not know why. Perhaps she needed to see this through. Perhaps she needed to understand. They walked for hours. The trail led them out of the forest and into rocky highlands where nothing grew. The ground was covered with bones, old bones, thousands of them, bones from species did not recognize, all of them cracked and broken, sucked dry of whatever the creatures fed on. "This is their hunting ground," said quietly. "They have been doing this for a very long time." Said nothing, he just kept following the blood. The cave entrance was hidden behind a wall of black stone. If not for the blood trail, they never would have found it. It was large enough for the creatures to enter, but not so large that it was obvious. The perfect lair for a predator. Stopped at the entrance, he turned to. "Stay here," he said. "I am going in alone." "Why?" asked. "Why alone can help you?" "Is going to take you back to the extraction point. The ship will arrive in 2 hours. You need to be there." "But what about you?" Looked at the cave entrance. Something moved in the darkness inside. He could hear the clicking sounds, the scraping. There were more creatures in there. How many, he did not know. "I am going to send a message," he said. Grabbed his arm. "Sergeant, this is suicide. You saw what those things can do. You cannot fight them all alone in there." "I do not plan to fight them all," removed her hand gently. "I plan to kill their leader. I plan to take something from them that they cannot replace, and then I plan to leave." "And if you die?" Smiled. It was a sad smile this time, a tired smile. "Then you make sure she gets home, both homes, space and human space. She has a story to tell. Make sure she tells it." He reached into his pack and pulled out a small device, a recorder. He pressed it into his hands. "Everything that happened here is on this," he said. "The crash, the creatures, the ambush, all of it. You are going to show this to your people, and to mine." Looked at the device with confused eyes. "Why? Our people are at war. Why would you want me to show this to both sides?" kneeled down so he was at her eye level. In that moment, he did not look like a soldier. He looked like a father, a teacher, someone trying to pass on something important. There are threats in this galaxy that are bigger than our war, he said. These creatures, though, they have been hunting intelligent species for 10,000 years. They do not care if you are or human or anything else. They see all of us as food, as sport, as prey. He pointed to the bones around them. Look at this. Thousands of dead, maybe millions across all the worlds they have hunted, and no one has stopped them, because no one knew, because everyone they attacked was too busy fighting each other to see the real enemy. You want us to work together, said slowly, and humans against them. I want you to survive. I want you to go home and grow up and have children and live a long life. But yes, I also want our people to stop killing each other long enough to deal with the things that want to kill all of us. He stood up and checked his rifle one last time. Fear is a message, he said, and you are going to help me send it. Then he walked into the cave, alone, and waited outside. Minutes passed, then they heard the gunfire. It was loud at first, rapid shots, explosions, screams that were not human. Then it got quieter, more distant. The battle was moving deeper into the cave. Paced nervously, every part of her wanted to go in and help, but she had her orders: protect the girl, get her to the extraction point, tell the story. He is going to die in there, whispered. Maybe, admitted, probably, but he will take a lot of them with him. Why sacrifice himself for this? For me, I am the enemy. Sat down next to her. The older woman looked tired, sad, but also strangely peaceful. There is a thing about humans that other species do not understand, she said. We are not the strongest, we are not the fastest. We do not have claws or armor or wings, but we have something else. We have purpose. When a human decides that something matters, really matters, they will die for it. They will walk into caves full of monsters. They will fight impossible odds. They will do things that make no logical sense. She looked toward the cave, decided that you matter, that this message matters, that stopping these creatures matters, and now nothing in the galaxy will stop him from seeing it through. An hour passed, then two. The gunfire had stopped long ago, was about to give up hope when a figure appeared at the cave entrance. He was covered in green blood. His left arm hung at a bad angle. He had cuts across his face and chest. He looked like he had crawled through hell and back. But he was smiling. In his right hand he carried a skull, black bone, red eye sockets, the skull of a. In his other hand he carried a small data device. Their ship, he said, his voice rough with exhaustion. Their navigation records, every world they have hunted, every trap they have set, everything. He collapsed to his knees, ran to catch him before he fell completely. How many, she asked, how many were in there? 12, said, there were 12. And you killed them all. I killed enough, he looked at with those eyes. Did you wait, did you see? Nodded, she could not speak. She could not believe what she was seeing. Good, pressed the data device into her hands next to the recorder. This is your proof. The skull is your symbol. You are going to take these back to your people, and to mine. You are going to tell them what happened here, what we did, what is out there. I will, promised. I will tell everyone. Smiled, then he passed out. Picked him up and began carrying him toward the extraction point. He was heavy, but she did not complain. Followed, clutching the skull and the devices. Behind them, smoke began to rise from the cave. Whatever had done in there, he had made sure they would not use this place again. As they walked, kept looking at the unconscious human on's back. He had saved her life. He had fought monsters for her. He had nearly died for a message that might bring peace between two warring species. She still did not fully understand humans, but she was beginning to respect them. And she was beginning to understand why they should have been afraid. 6 months had passed since the moon. 6 months since the rescue ship had arrived to find 2 wounded humans, and one girl carrying a monster's skull. The war had not ended, not immediately. Wars do not end because of one girl with a story, but something had changed. A crack had appeared in the wall between the two species, and through that crack something new was beginning to grow. Stood in the center of the High Council chamber. She was no longer the scared child who had hidden under metal while her family was slaughtered. She stood tall now. Her wing had healed, though it would always be slightly crooked. Her scales had darkened to a deeper purple, a sign of maturity in her species. In front of her sat the 12 members of the High Council, the most powerful in the galaxy. They had been fighting humans for 11 years. They had lost millions of lives. They had believed with all their hearts that humans were the greatest threat their species had ever faced. Now they were learning that they were wrong. "You expect us to believe this story?" High Counselor asked. His voice was cold, but his scales flickered with uncertainty. "Humans saving a child. Humans fighting alongside our people. It sounds like propaganda." "It is not propaganda," said calmly. She had told this story many times now, to diplomats, to generals, to ordinary citizens. Each time she told it the same way. The truth needed no decoration. "I am alive because of humans. I am standing here because a human soldier named Cole decided that my life was worth saving." She placed the skull on the table. The council members recoiled slightly. They had seen the recordings. They knew what the skull represented, but seeing it in person was different. It made it real. "This creature was part of a species that has been hunting intelligent life for 10,000 years, continued. They have killed millions of humans. They have killed millions of species we have never even heard of. They do not care about our war. They do not care about our politics. They see all of us as prey." She pressed a button and a holographic display appeared above the table. Maps, navigation routes, trap locations, all the data had recovered from the ship. "These are the worlds they have hunted," said. 47 planets, 12 species. Most of them are now extinct. They do not just hunt, they erase, they destroy. And they have been doing it for longer than either of our species has been traveling among the stars. The council was silent. They studied the data. They recognized some of the species listed, ancient races that had vanished mysteriously, lost colonies that had sent distress signals and then gone quiet forever, mysteries that had never been solved. "Why are you telling us this?" Counselor asked finally. "Why bring this to us? The humans could have used this information against us. They could have let them continue hunting us while they protected themselves." "That was discussed," admitted. "There were humans who wanted to do exactly that, but Cole argued against it. He said that they were too dangerous, that if they were allowed to continue, they would eventually come for humanity too, and he said something else." "What?" Smiled slightly. It was a human expression she had learned. "He said that winning a war means nothing if you lose your soul. He said that humans had done terrible things to my people, and we had done terrible things to them. But letting innocent people be hunted and killed by monsters was a line he would not cross." The council exchanged glances. This was not the image of humans they had been taught. Monsters did not speak of souls. Killers did not risk their lives to save enemy children. "Where is this Cole now?" another council member asked. "Is he here?" "No, he is recovering on a human medical station. His wounds were severe. He nearly died." Paused. "He asked me to deliver a message to you." "What message?" Took a deep breath. This was the moment. Everything she had been through, everything she had learned, everything had sacrificed for, came down to this. "He said that our peoples have been at war for 11 years. In that time, we have killed each other's children. We have destroyed each other's worlds. We have learned to hate each other. And while we were busy hatting, the real monsters were hunting us both." She looked at each council member in turn. "He said that he is not asking for peace. Peace is hard. Peace takes time. But he is asking for something smaller. A pause. A moment to look at the real threat. A chance for our species to fight together against something that wants to destroy us all. She placed her hands on the table. I was taught that humans were monsters. Then a human saved my life. I was taught that humans only cared about themselves. Then a human walked into a cave full of nightmares to protect a galaxy he might never see. I was taught that humans could never be trusted. Then a human gave me the most valuable information in the galaxy and asked nothing in return. Her scales flickered with emotion she could not hide. I am asking you to reconsider what you think you know, not because I am naive, not because I have forgotten what humans have done to us, but because I have seen what humans can do when they choose to protect instead of destroy. And I believe that together, we are stronger than either of us alone. The council was silent for a long time. Then High Counselor spoke. Your request is unusual, a joint military operation with humans against a common enemy. Many of our people would call this treason. Many of your people do not know what I know, replied. Show them the recordings, show them the skull, show them the data. Let them decide for themselves what is more dangerous, a war that we might one day end or an enemy that wants to erase us completely. Looked at the skull. He looked at the data. He looked at the young girl who had been through more in 6 months than most soldiers experienced in a lifetime. We will consider your request, he said finally. We will review the evidence, and we will respond. It was not a yes, but it was not a no. For now, that was enough. 3 months later, the first joint human fleet launched from a neutral station on the border between their territories. 12 human ships, 12 ships, flying side by side for the first time in history. Was on one of those ships. She had requested a position as a liaison, a bridge between the two species. She was young for such responsibility, but she had earned it. Was there too, thinner than before, walking with a slight limp that might never fully heal, but alive, still fighting. They stood together on the bridge, watching the stars streak past as the fleet entered hyperspace. You did it, said quietly. You delivered the message. We did it, corrected him. I just told the story. You gave me the story to tell. Shook his head. Stories are more powerful than bullets. I can kill 100 creatures, 1,000. It does not matter. But a story that changes how two species see each other, that can save millions. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace near a hunting ground. Long-range sensors showed dozens of the creatures gathering on the planet below. They had detected the ships. They were preparing for what they thought would be another hunt. They were wrong. All ships, this is Fleet Commander. The voice came over the communication system. Had been promoted after the moon. She had earned it. Target the positions. Prepare for orbital bombardment. On my mark. Watched as the inhuman ships moved into formation together. Weapons charging. Targeting systems aligning. Two species that had been killing each other for over a decade, now united against a common enemy. This is for my mother, whispered. For my father, for my brother, for everyone they killed. Put his hand on her shoulder. And for everyone they will never kill again. The bombardment began. On the planet below, they looked up at the sky. For 10,000 years they had been the hunters. They had never known fear. They had never faced anything that could threaten them. Today they learned. The fire from above was relentless, precise, deadly. When it was over, the on that planet were gone, but this was just the beginning. There were other hunting grounds, other traps, other monsters hiding in the darkness between stars. It would take years to find them all, maybe decades, but for the first time in 10,000 years, they were not the hunters. They were the hunted. And hunting was what humans did best. Watched the flames from orbit. She thought about the scared child she had been, hiding under metal, waiting to die. She thought about the human who had carried her out of that wreckage. She thought about the question she had asked him. Why did you not kill me? Now she understood the answer. The bait has to be alive. Because living bait becomes something more. It becomes a witness, a messenger, a bridge between worlds. It becomes hope.